Hello and welcome. We'll be getting started here in just a few seconds. We'll let everybody get into the doors. Glad you're able to join us today. Thank you for coming. Good to see you. Hello, everyone. Well, I want to thank you for being here and respect your time. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Mylio Photos Getting Started webinar. Today, we're going to walk through all of the things that you need to know to get up and running with the software. So let me go ahead and switch screens here and go over some of the plans for today. We're going to talk about what is Mylio Photos, why you need to create an account, installing and setting up the software, adding photos, syncing your devices, browsing your library, and where you can go to learn more. My name is Angela Andrew, and I'm a product evangelist for Mylio Photos. That means I work on documentation and education, and my main goal is to make sure you're successful. I'm also a fine art photographer and have been a photo educator for many years. And today I'm joined by my colleague, Lori Rubin. She is my fellow product evangelist, also a pro photographer and educator, and she's going to be helping out today in the chat and Q&A. So she'll be answering questions there as we go through the webinar. A few things for housekeeping to know as we get started. We do have a Q&A pod, so while you are welcome to post things in the chat, the Q&A is the best place for us to keep track of specific questions that you have, and we want to make sure that those get answered for you. So please post your specific questions in the Q&A, and we'll get those taken care of for you. I'd also like to learn a little bit more about you and why you're here today. So let me go ahead and start this poll, and you can tell me a little bit about your experience with Mylio and what you'd like to learn today. This will just help me tailor the program a little bit more to you and to your needs. So I'll wait for you guys to put a few answers in there. There's just 2 questions, so hopefully you're seeing that pop up on your screen and you can get those answered. Awesome. I see a few answers coming in. Wonderful. All right. Well, it looks like the most of the people here today are using the free trial, so this is the perfect place for you. This webinar is really designed for somebody who's just truly getting started. Let me go ahead and click share these results, and you guys can see what answers were put in. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and move right along. And if you, for some reason, need to step away today, you're always welcome to come back and watch the replay. You can go to community.mylio.com, and under topics, go to webinar replays. We also have a getting started webinar section in there where you can go and watch the most recent replay. They're always available for you to watch on demand. So please feel free to take advantage of that if we move a little bit too fast for you today. So let's go ahead and dive right in and talk about what is Mylio Photos. So at its core, Mylio is a system that empowers photographers to manage a lifetime of photos and videos in a single, secure, and connected library. That library is then made accessible to you across all of your devices, and it's an extremely fun and easy way to get organized and get your family legacy put into one place. So what it does is it turns your phones, computers, all your devices into a system for managing all of those memories. You're able to bring in all of your photos from multiple sources. We're talking from your hard drives, old memory cards, from download from social media. You bring all of your pictures into a single library, even all of those scanned family photos that you have. And that way you have everything in a single library, cataloged, organized, and that's made accessible to you on all of your devices, meaning your computers, your cell phones, your tablets. You can view your library on any of those devices, which is a lot of fun. Making all of that accessible is truly a game changer. So we have great technology that optimizes your photos so you can view even a large photo library on your laptop or phone. We have very sophisticated search and facial recognition technology built into the software. There's text recognition. It makes use of your camera's GPS data. So there's a lot of different ways that you can locate and find pictures when you need them. We also have built-in editing tools that let you edit your pictures no matter which device that you're on. And if you're somebody who likes to get into creative photo editing, we work with just about every other photo editor out there. So you can do as much or as little with your pictures as you want with regard to edits. You also get access to your library without any need for an internet connection or cloud data fees. Cloud is completely optional with Mylio Photos. And we also have mechanisms in place that help you protect your photos from device failure or loss. What that means is you can make easy synced backup copies. So in case your computer gets stolen or your laptop falls in the lake, or something horrible happens, you have a copy of your library on another device that you can get up and get back rolling with and have your memories protected. All right, so let's talk about your Mylio account. One of the questions we get a lot is, why do I need an account? I just want to try it out. Well, Mylio Photos is both an application and a service. The application is what you're running on your computer or on your phone. And the service aspect is what allows those devices to talk together. And we do that by virtue of our accounts. Your account is what authenticates and creates a handshake between those two devices to let them talk and securely transfer your photos back and forth. Your photos don't come into our cloud. We don't see your photos. It creates a secure connection so your devices can talk directly to each other. And so that's why you need an account and a login when you try out Mylio Photos. So when you're ready to get started, what you're going to do is log in or create an account. You're going to go to account.mylio.com. Once you log in, you're going to be able to quickly go in there and just download Mylio Photos. It should automatically detect which system you're on, whether you're on Windows or Mac, and you can go ahead and download. If you're wanting to download from a mobile device, what you're going to do is go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and download the software from there. All right, so as we're starting out, right now, the best way to get started with Mylio Photos is on a computer. You can do it from a mobile device, but the best experience is going to be from doing it from a computer. So that's what we're going to be moving forward looking at today, but we will talk about adding other devices. So once you've clicked that download button on the browser, you're going to go to your downloads folder and locate the Mylio_x64 file on Windows or the Mylio.dmg on a Mac. And go to the downloads folder, find that, double click, and then follow the instructions on screen to get that installed. Once you do that, you can go ahead and launch the software. And let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like right now. So I have Mylio Photos freshly installed on this computer. And the first thing that's going to pop up is a welcome window. If you click that next button, you'll need to log in with that account you created on the website. So let me do that really quick. All right. And once you do that, you're going to have a few screens to click through. Now, the first question you're going to be asked in this process is to choose your Mylio library folder. So at its core, the Mylio library folder is your default location for future imports. That's it. It's a folder that you can use, but you don't have to use. It's just going to set a default for the future. So let's go ahead and jump through a few of these screens. And I'm just going to skip through, but I do recommend that you read these your first time through. Here we go. We talk a little bit about the Mylio library folder. And the first question you're going to be asked is, do you want to create a new folder or select an existing folder? So which do you choose? For most people, I'm going to recommend creating a new folder. Whether you have an existing library that's already mostly organized or everything is scattered, a new folder is just a clean, easy way to get started. However, you can choose an existing folder if your media library is already super organized and you just want Mylio to point there and be done with it. One thing to note when choosing an existing folder, if you have a large library there, it will take Mylio a while to import and ingest all those photos before you're able to start interacting. So sometimes if you just want to poke around and get familiar with the software, creating a new folder is the way to go. You can always add that folder of your organized images later on if you want to. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to create a new folder. So let's go here and say create a new folder and move forward. And now we need to choose where that folder needs to go. So that's another great question. For most people, what you're going to want to do is put that Mylio library folder on an external drive. Another great location is if you have a desktop computer with a lot of space. The reason is this is the default location for new pictures that you bring in. So you want to make sure you have room to grow. So in today's example, I'm going to choose to put my Mylio library folder on an external hard drive. And it's a brand new one that I bought just for pictures to go. So let me go ahead and choose, let me change the location. And I'm going to choose that folder. I'm going to go down to my locations and I have this one called new hard drive. It's a brand new hard drive. And I'm going to create a new folder here. And I'm just going to call this Mylio. You can call it whatever you like. And then choose create and open. All right. So it's showing the path to my new folder, which is on my new hard drive in the Mylio folder. and we'll say looks good. And that's going to finish setting Mylio up for me. All right, confirmation, we can click got it. And now the next question is, do we want to install the sample library? So let's talk about that for a second. The sample library is a lot of fun to browse because it lets you see what a fully organized library looks like. We have pictures in there of a wide variety of genres. They're all fully organized. You can poke around the calendar, the map, all the different areas in the program and see what it's supposed to do. Now, it might not be as much fun as working with your own images, so this is completely optional. If you do decide to add the sample library, it is super easy to add and super easy to remove. So I'll walk you through both. So right now, let's go ahead and install the sample library and let that populate. All right. So as that's happening, you can see some pictures are starting to pop in. We get some blue screens here that let you know what's going on in the app. I'm just going to quickly click through these for now, because we're going to explore all of this later. All right, so let's jump back here to all photos. This is probably where you're going to have the most fun, is this all photos view. And this is a conglomeration of all of your pictures in your library. This is going to be showing no matter where the folders are located, pulling everything into a single view so you can see everything all at once. This is exceptionally powerful when you're looking at things for things that are taken with different cameras, but maybe on the same day. It's going to show them all together. Another great view is our calendar. The life calendar is a lot of fun. And this lets you see all of your pictures from your life on a calendar. So you can literally see your life in photos. And you can scroll back and back and back, and you can see some of these pictures. We're getting into areas where pictures are scanned. This is pre-digital. And you can even bring in all of your old historical family photos that you've scanned and added dates to, and go back in history. In my personal library, I have things back to the 1930s. We have people who use Mylio who have things back, a couple hundred of years. And you can even bring in documents as well. So let me go ahead and scroll back here to the top. You can see at the top, we even have ones marked as undated. So let me go ahead and click on those really quick. And you can see here in the info panel on the right, which if you're not seeing the info panel, it might be collapsed. You can just click those arrows there on the side. And you can see this is marked as undated. You can mark any photo as undated. If you scan it in and the date's incorrect, you can just mark it as undated to come back and research later. And then to get back to the top level view, you just double click on calendar, takes you back to that decade view. And again, you're just kind of seeing an overview of your life and pictures. It's really a lot of fun to browse this way. If you're someone who finds pictures based on when they were taken, this is going to be your friend. I'm somebody who thinks in numbers, so dates make a lot of sense to me. So this is probably one of my favorite views. If you're someone who finds pictures based on where they were taken, you're going to love the map. So what this does is it takes the GPS information that's embedded in your pictures and automatically loads that in so you can see it on the map. Now, a lot of us have pictures that don't have GPS information, and it is very easy to add. But what you can do is zoom in on different areas of the map, and you can see where you've been and maybe where you still need to go. So if you want to add GPS information to pictures that don't have this information, let's go ahead and jump back to all photos for a second. This picture here has no GPS information. And the reason I know that is because it doesn't have this little pin icon. This means that it has GPS information. This one does not. So what I can do is grab this on a map. And let's say I know this was taken in Pismo Beach, California. I can go ahead and type in the search there. And it's going to pop up with a few options. I can click in. There's Pismo Beach on the map. I can simply grab this image, drag it onto the map, adjust that placement, and then accept the placement. And now this image has GPS information. It'll then show up on my map in the map view. So if I go ahead and zoom in into this area here down by Pismo Beach, we'll be able to see that image much more close. Now, if you're on a touchscreen device, you can use a pinch and zoom, but there we go. There's that image right there next to Pismo Beach. And you can even zoom in on locations by typing it here into the search at the top. So this is a great way to find images based on where they were taken. And you don't have to necessarily go in and enter a lot of information. You can just drag your pictures onto a general area, get it close enough, and there you go. You've got more information that you can work with. Now, the next one here is the people view. If you remember, if you want to find pictures based on who was in a picture, this is going to be your friend. This lets you use our AI facial recognition to go through and tag the faces of the people in your life. So we've already have a few here that have been tagged, and you can click into any of these and you see all of the pictures that contain that person. Let's go ahead and back out of this. And how do we add tags to our pictures? Well, as Mylio imports your images, it's going to go through and scan and look for faces. When it detects a face, it's going to put it here into the untagged category. If you go ahead and double click on that, and then go up to the upper right to the More menu, let's say zoom to face, that's going to show us which face it was recognizing in this instance. So in this one here, I can click on the question mark. I know that was Colleen. I can just type in Colleen. There's her name. And now it jumped to the next person in that image that I need to tag. I know that's Rich. So we can go ahead and type that in, select his name, and we can keep going through that way. Now, going through your pictures one by one in this manner can seem a little bit time consuming. So instead, what I like to do is go over to batch tagging, which is this little icon over here on the right. And what this does is this groups together similar faces so we can more quickly tag all of these images. In this example, I know all of these are Colleen. So I can go over here to the top. I can start typing in her name, or it just popped up here in the list. There we go. I do believe this is Michael, so I can just start typing in Michael. There we go. And he's already in the list. This is Michael, a little bit older. And again, I didn't even have to type. I just clicked into the field, and it's going through and it's tagging all of these faces in bulk. So instead of having to go through and click on the question mark underneath each and every one, I can do these in groups. If I'm going through this group and I say, you know what, these are all Colleen, but maybe not this one, I can tag this one separately and then tag the rest of the batch very, very quickly. So it's a very efficient way to get through and organize and tag everything. And then when you're done, or you want to just step away from it for a while, you can hit that back arrow and come back. You'll see that your count of untagged has gone down. And we have more pictures of Colleen that have been tagged. And as you're looking through these pictures of people, one thing to note is right now we have it set to zoom to face. So you have the option to turn that on or off. It's up here in the More menu. And if you turn it off, it's going to show the picture in its full context. If you want to have it on, it's going to zoom into the face that's recognized. And in this instance, we're in here looking at all of Colleen's pictures. So everything is going to be zoomed in on her face. So that's just one thing to note there. All right, go ahead and back out of that. The next area we have is albums. Albums are a great organizational tool for grouping things together in whatever way makes sense to you. So some people like to group things together by travel. Some people like to group things together by events. There are a lot of different ways you can use this. So for instance, we've grouped together a few things by landscapes, by birds. Inside of birds, we have different kinds of birds. And you can do nested albums. And like I said, these are like playlists. So when you put images into albums, you're not physically moving them on your computer. You're not duplicating them. So much like a music playlist, you can have one song in 10 different playlists. You can have one picture in 10 or more different albums. The sky is really the limit what you can do with albums. And there's many, many different ways you can use to organize with them. If we go to the next view, which is folders, folders are a direct representation of what's on your hard drive. This is going to be a direct connection. So if I move something in folders, it's going to physically move it on my hard drive. And you can see what we're looking at here is our sample library. We haven't added any of our own images yet. We have that Mylio folder we created, which is currently empty. And we have this cool one here called Mylio Inbox. And just to show you what that is, let me go ahead and pull up a Finder window. And this will be the same as if you're in Explorer as well. Right here in the left column, we have the Mylio Inbox. And that is a shortcut that I can drop any photos into. Mylio will watch that folder and they'll automatically appear here in the Mylio Inbox. So this is a great way if you have images that are scattered in different places on your computer, you want to get them all into one place, get them organized, drop them into your inbox, and then you can organize and further move them around inside of Mylio, which is much more fun than dealing with the file system. So let me go ahead and close that. And so that is an overview of all of our views. The next option over is the dashboard. And this is kind of, Yep.
Before you move on, since you're in the folder section, there was a
Yeah.
question from BJ who was
Sure.
asking, I have an external drive that contains folders of all my photos, a folder from 2020, 21, 22, etc. In each yearly folder, there are other folders for January, February, March, etc. Do I need to remove the folder that contains, do I need to remove the folder contents and then populate a Mylio new folder? In other words, do I have to spill these photos into the new mega folder?
No, not at all. You can add a top level folder and it will add all of the subfolders it contains. And you can add them from where they're located. We'll actually walk through that here in just a second. I'll show you how to add your own pictures. And I can even create a subfolder in there so you can see what that looks like. So we'll make sure you know how to do that. But great question. All right, so up here to the dashboard, this is kind of your hub for controlling all things Mylio. If you want to see which devices you've added, you can go here to devices. You can see there's that hard drive I added with my Mylio folder and my MacBook Pro that I'm working on right now. And there's a lot of other options in here you can use to just poke around and find things you can do in Mylio. A few other things that you might want to be aware of. We talked a little bit about that info panel. And some of these things change depending on what view you're in. So let me go ahead and click on a photo in all photos. You can see here with the info panel, this gives you your metadata about your image. Here's your timestamp. You can click on the three dots here to change that date if you need to. If you don't know what date that was, it's a scanned photo. You can always mark it as undated here. Title, caption, you can rename a file, add keywords, many different options here you can use to further organize your images. We talked briefly about the map. This is kind of the mini map where you can drag things on there to add GPS data to things that don't have it. Edit is where you're going to find all of our basic editing tools. So let's go ahead and double click into one of these images. And go ahead and open it up in full screen. You'll see we've got a great suite of tools here so you can help make your images look their best. And then the sync panel. This is a really cool place to see what's going on with Mylio. I'm going to go ahead and expand the devices and expand activity. And this is going to give us an overview of the status of Mylio. Now, if you want to know very in-depth what all of these things mean, we do have all of that outlined in our manual, which I'll show you where to find in a little while. But just to know where this is, what's here. A couple of other things you're going to want to know is our Add Media button, which we'll discuss in a couple of minutes. We also briefly touched on the More menu, and this is where you can find the main system settings. And then down here in the bottom right, we have what's called the Actions menu. And there's a lot of different things for how you interact with your pictures in this menu as well. If you're on a computer with a mouse, you can also right-click on an image or in many places in the application and get that same Actions menu. But if you're on a touch device, you can get all of those options based here in the Actions menu in the bottom right. All right, so I think that's kind of the overview of everything in the app. So this is everything we talked about right here. The one thing we didn't look at was the help menu, which I'm going to briefly show you, but we'll go into more later when we're looking at other educational resources you can get to. But if you need help, right up here in the upper right, we have our help menu. And this takes you directly to our manual, joining the community, and even directly contacting our support team should you need them. So that's a really great one to know as well. All right, so now that we've explored what the program can do and what a library can look like, let's add some of our own photos because that's where things get really fun, right? Let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to jump back over to Mylio Photos. And because I want to work with my photos, not necessarily somebody else's photos, let's remove that sample library. And you can do this at any time. You can add your photos and remove the sample library later. It's completely up to you, but you can go up to the help menu and just say remove sample library. Go ahead and click that. And you'll see our activity monitor up here in the upper right doing some things. And give it a few seconds and these pictures are just going to disappear and we'll end up with a completely empty library. There we go. Empty library. All right, so now let's add some of our own pictures because this is where things actually are entertaining. Click on Add Media, and I'm going to choose to add media from this device. I'm going to go down to an external hard drive where I have some pictures already organized. And in this folder, it's just a top-level folder with a handful of images. Now, to go through the example that we were talking in that question a few minutes ago, let me actually change something here. Go ahead and grab a Finder window. And I'm going to go to my photos and I'm going to click right here, do a new folder. And then I'm just going to grab some of these images and put those into this untitled folder. So now we have a top level folder with another folder inside of it with a bunch of images. So you can have these organized by year, by month, whatever your folder structure is. When you add that top level folder, Mylio will bring in everything below it. So now let's jump back here to Mylio, go to My Amazing Photos and choose Open. And in this instance, I'm going to choose to link those files and choose Link Now. And that's going to go ahead and work on bringing those images in. All right. So we had a couple of options there. I chose the link option because I didn't want to physically move those images where they were at. That's a really great option for people, especially if you're using other editing tools like Lightroom or something else. You don't want to necessarily move your images. You just want to tell Mylio to watch that folder. So that's why I chose link. If you have a big mess and you're just trying to get everything all into one place, copy or move might be the better option for you. So what happens with copy is it will duplicate that folder of images into your Mylio library folder and continue watching them in your Mylio library folder. If you do move, it physically moves them and transfers them from that original location to your Mylio library folder. So those are the options when adding media from a computer or hard drive. You can also add photos from a smartphone. To do that, you'll just install Mylio Photos on that phone, download it from the App Store or Play Store, log in with your Mylio account, and grant access to your camera roll or media library. Mylio will automatically start bringing those images in, and you'll end up with a folder in that folders view that says Android photos or Apple photos. It's really easy and a really great way to bring all of those images down from their various clouds and get them under your control so you can back them up. You're also able to download and back up photos from online services such as Facebook, Instagram, Flickr, and Google Photos. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, well, I've got the originals on my computer, so why do I need to download from Facebook or Instagram? Well, anecdotally from my own life, back when Instagram first started, and I've been using it for a very long time, you used to be able to take pictures directly within the app, and they didn't save to your camera roll. They went directly into Instagram, so the only place you could view them was Instagram. I went through and I did this process, and yes, do I have some duplicates that I need to clean up? For sure. But did I find images that I completely forgot I captured? Absolutely. Same goes with Facebook. I know a lot of people who shared photos of their kids 5, 10 years ago, and that's the only place those images exist because that was before people were very savvy about backups. It was before people were putting things in cloud services. There's pictures out on Facebook that you've probably forgotten that you've taken. So being able to download and back those up can retrieve some really special memories that you forgot that you photographed. So I encourage you to go through these processes, clean up, get rid of the duplicates, of course, but I almost can guarantee you're going to find some things that you didn't realize you had. So let's jump back over to Mylio and take a look at those images that I just brought in. You can see now here in the sync panel, my MacBook Pro, that new hard drive that I added. And here's the My Photos drive that just came in with those photos. Right now we're in all photos, but let's jump over to the folders view. And now here's the My Photos drive that we added and My Amazing Photos. You can see in this particular folder, we have 256 images and one folder. If I go ahead and click into that, here's all the loose images that are in the folder. And then here's the subfolder that we created. So you can bring in a top level folder and it's going to bring in whatever hierarchy you have underneath and keep that hierarchy visible so you can interact with it the way you're used to. All right. Any questions on that? Looks pretty good.
Not on that, but there is a question about iCloud.
Awesome.
Okay, so John is asking, will Mylio move photos that are stored on the iCloud?
So if you're talking about your Apple, yes, it will. So when if you attach your phone, it will bring them in from whatever's stored in the cloud. So most likely with a phone, you're going to have some things that are stored locally on your phone, some things that are stored in the cloud. Mylio will bring them all in. You also have the option of bringing in photos. If you have a Mac computer, you can directly attach Apple Photos on your computer and bring them in that way as well. But yes, it will bring them in from the cloud. You don't have to do any other extra steps. All right. So let's talk a bit more about adding devices. So we've already added a couple of devices to our Mylio just by virtue of adding some photos. Our first device is the computer that we set this up on. Then we have a couple of hard drives, and these are places where photos are stored. So with Mylio, we really break things up into two different types of devices. We have viewing devices like a computer, tablet, or smartphone. Those are devices where you want to sit there and browse your pictures. And then we have storage devices like external hard drives, network attached storage, or even a computer that has really big hard drives in it. All of these are valid. I just want to kind of bring that to your attention that there's different types of devices you can add, and they interact differently with Mylio. So let's take a look here at what I have for my MacBook Pro. I'm going to jump into my dashboard. And if I go down to devices, you'll see that this device is listed here at the top. And then I have drives and clouds. Now, when I created the new hard drive, this is where my Mylio library folder is, it set it up as a vault. And a vault is going to want everything. A vault holds all of your pictures, all of your originals from all of your sources, and your catalog. So we really recommend having actually two vaults. That's because we want to have a backup. That's going to be a backup in case this hard drive dies. I have another one that has my catalog and all of my pictures. Right now I have the drive here with my linked photos, and those pictures are being backed up to this vault. So that's something worth noting. There are some questions on what's the difference between adding media and adding devices, because there is some overlap, right? You might have a computer with folders on it that you want to add, but that's also a viewing device. Or you might have a hard drive with pictures that you also want to add. So that's what we did here. And then when you add your phone or a tablet, you're adding a viewing device, but you're also adding pictures. So there's components of both in both, but when you're wanting to bring in pictures from different sources, typically you're going to go up here to the plus button and choose add media. And this is where you can go to an online service. You can bring in from Apple Photos. You can even bring in old legacy iPhoto or Aperture libraries, or you can use this to bring in things from SD cards and external drives and so forth. When you're wanting to add a device, the only time you really want to go here to add device is when you want to add a new external hard drive or a new network attached storage. Anytime you install Mylio onto a computer, it's automatically going to add it as a device here. So I hope that brings a little bit of clarity to that process. All right. So when you're installing on devices, you have a lot of options. And that's one of the beautiful things about Mylio Photos is it's cross-platform. So you can be a household that has an Android tablet, an iPhone, and a Windows computer. And all of these devices can talk together. So if you can install Mylio on Windows machines, Mac, Android, and iOS. And all of the support for different versions is actually very generous. It goes back pretty far. So you should be able to get most of your devices in your household with Mylio Photos if you want to. All right, so we're coming to the end. I have a lot of resources here that hopefully you find helpful. We did talk briefly about that in-app help menu. The product manual and the quick start guide are really important. Let me go ahead and jump back over to Mylio. And I'm going to go up here to our help menu and go into that how-to guide. So this is the Mylio Photos manual. Each one of these sections here on the left breaks down into many subchapters. So if these are collapsed, you can always open them up and see what's inside. It is fully searchable. I don't expect you to go through and read this all word for word. There's a lot here, and not everything is going to necessarily apply to you. But if you come across something that's confusing, this should be your first stop to go and search and see if you can find the answer. There's lots of great stuff here. And if you're somebody who likes to work offline, you can always download the PDF as well. The next thing on the list here is our community. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that and open it up. I do recommend that you join, but for now we're going to click explore so you can just kind of poke around and see what's here. We have a lot of in-person and virtual events that you can join, and you can see everything that's coming up here in the events section. If you go down to the quick start videos, we have our entire quick start guide here, and you can watch all of these videos and get an idea of what to do. It covers a lot of what we discussed today, but it goes a little bit more in depth than what we did. We also have our full-length course, the Mylio Photos Fundamentals. And again, it covers a lot of what we did today, but it goes much further in depth. This is about 2 hours, and you can go through and take a look at each individual section and watch the ones that make sense to you, skip the ones that don't interest you, and get a better understanding of what the software can do. We also have written and video tutorials here under Mylio Photos Tutorials. We do a weekly session called a coffee break. You'll find the upcoming ones in the events section, but you can always go here into coffee break, into past coffee breaks, and see all of our previous ones that we've done as well. And what we do in these sessions is go into typically one small section of the app and talk about it, and then have open Q&A. It's very informal and it's a lot of fun. So I hope you can join us on some of those sessions. If you want to see any of our old webinars, read up some FAQs on the program, lots of great information. If you're somebody who likes to share photos and interact with other users, you can go into our groups. And we have a bunch of different groups where you can talk about different genres of photography, learn about them, and post your own photos. If you end up having any issues with the software, let's say something isn't working the way you expect that it should, you can always contact our support team. If you want to add back in that sample library to play, you can always add it here. And then once you do that, you can click to remove it again. You can do that as many times or as often as you like. And I think that pretty much covers what we have in our help section. If we go back here to the presentation, if you want to scan this QR code here on the right, that's going to take you to a page in our community that has all of these links. Hopefully that'll make it easy for you to find the resources that you need. And I think that's all we have for today. Lori, were there any other questions?
There are actually, we have three
Awesome.
questions here. All right. So there's a question about, this is a photo app, but they have a majority of videos. So how does Mylio handle video assets?
It does it great. So you can add many different types of videos. If you go into our user guide up at the top here, supported file types, you can actually see a full list of the supported files that we have, and most types of videos are supported.
Great.
And you'll interact with them very similarly to how you interact with photos.
Great. Okay. And then Denise was asking if you can explain the link versus copy again.
Absolutely. So let me go ahead and close out of this here and pop up here to this menu. And let's see here. Let me find something here to add. I'll just grab that one here and say open. So link tells Mylio to watch the pictures where they watch that folder where it actually lives right now. So whether it's on your hard drive, on your computer, on an external drive, when you link it, Mylio just watches that folder for any changes. It doesn't move them. It doesn't do anything to them. They stay there. And this is a great option for people who have like a Lightroom library or use another photo management tool that's also watching a specific file system. Anybody can use it. There's no limitations. Copy and move are better for people who want to consolidate and get things all into one place. Copy would simply, like kind of a copy and paste. It copies them from one place and puts them into another. And then Mylio will watch the Mylio library folder. It doesn't watch that original copy. Does that make sense? With move, it physically picks them up and moves them to your Mylio library folder. So that original location, they get deleted there, and then you have just the copy in your Mylio library folder.
Great.
Hope that makes sense.
That does, you did a good job. Okay, last question, it looks like.
All right.
I have a 1 terabyte internal HD hard drive dedicated just for photos and a 5 terabyte external drive. Where should I put the Mylio library folder? Which should be a vault?
I would say the 5 terabyte would probably be the better vault. But if you're, depends on the size of your library. If your library is only 250 gigs or 500 gigs, you can easily make that smaller drive a vault as well. It's completely up to you. It's just going to be less room for you to grow. My personal inclination is to go with that 5 terabyte and link from the 1 terabyte, but neither is the wrong answer.
Great. And I'd just like to say, for those of you who have more questions, Mylio has an extensive educational place in the community. I mean, Angela, you've done great. Rich and JC did a fantastic job, but you can find, really quick tutorials. So if you don't have a lot of time and you just want to really jump to a particular topic, you can do that, or you can actually walk through the courses like Angela showed you. She actually wrote the manual, so she knows exactly where to find things. But
This
it's
is true.
very searchable. And I think the educational assets here at Mylio are fantastic. So do take advantage of that, including the community where you can show some of your photos. We love to share. So please join us there as well.
Absolutely. Looks like we have a few more things here that popped up into the Q&A. So John says, I have about 100,000 photos in Apple Photos and have begun storing most on the cloud to save storage on my laptop. I recently bought a Mac Studio 2 terabyte external drive where I've backed up where I've located my Mylio library. I've also given the Apple library files there too. I assume there's no reason to actually store the photos in both places. Okay, so you have them in the cloud, in Apple's cloud, and you have them in your vault. It's up to you if you want to keep both. I personally have, but you don't have to. The thing you want to keep in mind with locations of your images is you want to be able to, if one device dies, you want to be able to have them someplace else. So if your only other backup is in iCloud, you want to keep those there. If you have a secondary vault, then it's not as necessary. And you can go in and clean up the things in iCloud. Once they're backed up in Mylio, you don't necessarily have to keep them in iCloud. So that's a personal choice, but you just want to make sure you have backups. More copies of things are your friends, as long as you know where to find them and that they're organized. All right. Kirk says, if you link, will the photos still go to the vaults? Absolutely, yes. We can take a look at that right now. So I have the linked folder here on the My Photos drive and my Mylio library folder, which is my vault on new hard drive. Let's jump over to a Finder window and take a look at what that looks like. So if I go here to my Mylio folder, right now that's empty because I didn't put anything in it. But if I go into this folder here, here's that My Photos from my other drive and my Amazing Photos. And it may still take a little while for everything to populate, but there we go. Mylio has already synchronized all of those originals from the My Photos drive to my vault. So they live now in both places. Mylio knows that they are in both places. It's referencing the original location and it's backed them up to my vault. All right, let's see here. If you move or copy rather than link, you have to keep doing this as you take and store photos. Okay, so when you're bringing things into Mylio, those are the pictures that you already have, and you're wanting to get everything into the library that you currently have. When you start making new photos, let's say you're going out, you have a standalone camera, a mirrorless DSLR, something like that. What you're going to do is you're going to take that memory card, plug that into your computer, and go ahead and do an import there. And in that case, you're going to want to do a copy, because that's going to copy it from the memory card, and then it'll go by default to your Mylio library folder. But you can change that. You can tell Mylio to put it wherever you like. But by default, it'll go to your Mylio library folder, and then everything will get backed up. Once you have that memory card in Mylio, Mylio is doing its backup. You can then take that card and go reformat it and keep using it. That's how I work. Let's see here. I copy my flash drives into folders in the original 3 folders, private miscellaneous. Can Mylio interpret these? So you can add whatever folders you want to Mylio. You're not limited by how many folders you add. So if you have a private folder, you can add that. You have a miscellaneous folder, you can add that. The thing to keep in mind with every folder that you add, everything regardless of the source, so you can have your personal and your private and your miscellaneous. When you go into all photos, everything will show in one place. So if your goal is to keep things, some things ultimately very private, and you want to be able to show things in your library, let's say hand your phone over to a friend and they're flipping through, you just want to be aware of that if they go to the all photos view, everything will show there. There are a few things you can do with filtering to show, let's say, specific folders or specific categories. You just have to make sure that filter is on. So if you're handing your phone and your tablet over to someone else to go ahead and view, let's say, a particular photo shoot, that they're seeing only the things you want them to see. So it's something to be aware of. All right, can we explain again creating another folder to link to? So linking folders is a great way to show Mylio. You want Mylio to watch this folder here, but you don't want to move anything out of it. When you do that, you're going to go up here to the plus button and choose media accessible from this device. And in this case, I have this photo focus folder selected. I say open and I choose link. what happens is exactly what happens when we added those pictures earlier, to where Mylio is going to see those pictures. I'm going to have this folder. Let's go here to the folders view. It's linked to my photos drive, which is a separate hard drive. And it's showing that folder and all of its subfolders that I added, that I linked. And if I make any changes in my hard drive, let's say I add additional pictures to this folder, Mylio will scan this folder and update what's there. But it's a direct link to that folder. Conversely, if I go in here and I say I want to delete this picture, it's going to be a permanent delete, and it's going to delete it not only from Mylio, it'll delete it from my vault and my original location. So it is directly linked to those folders. What I'm doing in a folder here in Mylio is like doing it in the folder in your file system. So hopefully that clarifies, and I don't want to delete that. All right. And Dennis says, I have all of my photos organized by year and subjects, such as Christmas, but the metadata is not correct in some photos. What would be the best way to link them in Mylio? Dennis, I would just add the folder and then work on correcting the metadata after you get them into Mylio. So for instance, if you get in here and the date on that picture is not correct, you can just go into the info tab and adjust the timestamp. Or if it's, let's say, a scan photo and you don't know when it was captured, you can choose undated, or let's say we knew that was captured in the 1950s, you can choose decades and go ahead and select a different option here. So there's a lot of tools for correcting the metadata here in Mylio. When you do that, all of those changes to your metadata are saved to XMP sidecar files. So that way everything stays with your pictures and is available to use in other programs outside of Mylio as well. All right. Any other questions that I missed, Lori?
I think you got them all. Great job.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today. I hope this has been helpful and informative. Like Lori said, make sure you join our community. We're there to help answer follow-up questions. Lori and I both hang out there a lot. And take advantage of the manual, search around, but we're here to help and we want you to be successful. My final parting thought for you today is, I know Mylio Photos is a big program. There's a lot going on here and a lot that you can learn. My advice is to take it into sections that make sense to you. If you're someone who likes to find your photos based on when they were taken, the calendar is going to be your best friend. If you like to find things based on where they were taken, hang out with the map. And if you're really focused in on your family photos and who was in those photos, you're going to love People View. Dive into one of those views and spend some time there, and don't feel like you have to learn everything at once. There's also a lot of different options here for adding metadata and other organizational stuff to your photos. This is all optional. You don't have to do all of this. Do the bits that make sense to you. Don't feel like you have to put in hundreds of different keywords. It's all about customizing it to fit you and just take it in baby steps. So that's my words of wisdom for today. I hope you guys enjoy Mylio Photos, and I look forward to seeing you in the community. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Bye-bye.